The Chicago Bears outlast the Cincinnati Bengals in a game that has 89 total points. Patrick Mahomes has one of his worst games of his career, possibly his worst game of his career. All that and more next on the Everyday Fans podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Fans podcast, where the game belongs to all of us. No experts, no suits, just fans talking sports the way we live it every day. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Fans podcast. This week we're jumping right in. We're jumping right in Week 9 recap. And we'll start with my Chicago Bears, as I think it was the most entertaining game on the day yesterday. If you disagree, let me know down in the comments which game you enjoyed more so. This is a game that saw 89 total points being scored. It really got crazy late the last 2 minutes. I actually had to come home and rewatch the game in the end because I was out and I was watching, but I really didn't get the best feel of every little detail that was happening late. So I did have to come back home and watch the final roughly 3 to 4 minutes of actual game time. Watch that back. But so for this game on the Chicago Bears side, this game was dominated by two rookies. 7th round pick in Kyle Monangai and the 10th overall pick in Colston Loveland. Kyle Monangai had 196 total yards, 176 rushing on the day. DeAndre Swift was out of this game, and he stepped up big, stepped up in a major way, showed that he can be a back that they can lean on if DeAndre Swift needs to miss a couple of more weeks with that groin injury. And then Colston Loveland. Everybody's been talking about Tyler Warren and what the Colts have done with their rookie tight end and all this, where he can line up and all of that. Colston Loveland showed everybody today, Bears fans and non-Bears fans, that he's capable of having big-time performances in this league. As he had the late-game 58-yard connection with Caleb in the end to ultimately seal this game. He's a guy that was lining up all over the place. I saw him in the slot, saw him lined up at tight end. He's been blocking a lot. So he's a very versatile player and a player that I expect to be one of Caleb's favorite targets moving forward. Speaking of Caleb shines yesterday in a back and forth game. I'm gonna be honest. First half, I did not enjoy some of the reads he was making. I think he could have took some easier throws. Maybe this game even looks a lot more different if he made those throws early, but ultimately he didn't. He's still learning in his offense. But he ended with 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 receiving. So very versatile game from the offense overall, as I believe, I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe it was 560 yards of total offense on the day for this Bears team. A lot of trick plays. Obviously, it shows Caleb has a receiving touchdown that he caught from DJ Moore, a play they went for it on 4th down early in the game. I like the aggressiveness from from the offense. I like the fact that Ben Johnson he's not holding anything back. We're in Week 9. We're at a point in the season where you can kind of see some of these different type of things to keep defenses off balance, right? And he's shown trust and the ability in this offense that he's calling these plays. Saw even a play late where they brought Tyson Bagent in, and because Caleb had 2 receptions for 20 yards in this game as well, where Tyson Bagent threw it across back to Caleb, and Caleb ended up getting, 10, 15 yards on that play. So Caleb, very, very versatile type of athlete here, as he also had 50-ish yards rushing, maybe 55, 53, something in that range. So overall, wonderful game for Caleb by the day's end. Joe Flacco, career day for Joe Flacco, 470 yards with a bum arm, 4 touchdowns in defeat. Both Higgins and Chase over 100 yards on the day. 2 monster touchdowns for T. Higgins. I mean, both of these receivers, I knew we would struggle with them in this game. That's why on my TikTok I uploaded my number one key to the game was defensive pressure. We did get 3 sacks. To me, it wasn't enough in terms of how it looked getting the pressure on Joe Flacco, as he clearly had a really good day. So we did win a turnover battle, having 3 turnovers. But ultimately, moving forward, obviously this defense, the special teams needs to get a lot better as they were not very good yesterday, especially the special teams. I mean, god awful. And we retained the special teams coach from last year, so I don't know if it's an issue of something he's teaching the guys or what, but they need to clean that up moving forward. Looking at this game, the Bears at the end of this game, the Bears moved to 5-3, and the Bengals dropped to 3-6. So teams moving in vastly different directions. This is a game in the last few years the Bears would have lost. Under the last 2-3 regimes, the Bears would have lost this game after giving up the onside kick and the late touchdown. But in this Ben Johnson era, this is what I mean when things feel different. The team is rallying. Caleb gets the ball in his hand. The first couple plays of that drive didn't look great, but ultimately he used his legs on that 3rd and 10, which was the key play of the game, in my opinion. He used his legs, he used his athleticism, gets the first down, and then throws a strike over the linebacker ahead of the safety to Colston Loveland for the touchdown. So ultimately, let's see what this team does. I'm not predicting that this team is going to win a Super Bowl, but I think this is a team that compete really for the division now, because if you don't know, Detroit lost to Minnesota. Minnesota goes on the road up to Detroit and beats Detroit in a divisional matchup. And the Carolina Panthers go to Lambeau Field and take out the Green Bay Packers. So Green Bay at 5-2 now with a tough game. I believe they have Philly coming up on Monday night. I believe that's next Monday. Don't hold me to that. I'm pretty sure that's the game they have, which is going to be a tough game, especially going to Philly. So very promising outlook for the Bears at this point in the season. Let's not celebrate too early, but a very solid win. This is the type of win that can propel a team moving forward. Got a game against the Giants at home next week, a game that is very winnable. So let the boys get the day off today and, get back to work really soon, because, these are the type of games that they should win, but you never know in this league any given Sunday. Moving on to the Bills and the Chiefs game here. Very interesting game because of how it looked, right? Bills defense, very good. Bills controlled the game by way of time of possession, really being able to run the ball the last couple of weeks with James Cook. Obviously, Josh Allen will run the ball a little bit himself, as he had 2 rushing touchdowns on the day, 1 passing touchdowns. But the disparity to me, and this is what a lot of teams right now anyway, start looking at this completion percentage. 23 for 26 for Josh Allen. I mean, right? Mahomes had his lowest completion percentage of his career at 44%. The defense was disguised in different ways that they hadn't really shown Mahomes and the Chiefs prior to. And this is a guy you would think pre-snap is able to really dissect defenses, knows what's happening, but he looked lost in that game. He really didn't ever really look comfortable. And that's very interesting as the last few weeks, because the Chiefs, they seem like they have been getting it together. Their offense has been, coming along, and Rashee Rice is back, and, Kelsey's looking better. Xavier Worthy's there. Juju Smith-Schuster is stepping in, making plays. Hollywood Brown is making some plays. Pacheco was out this game. And maybe him being out limited the run game a little bit, but nonetheless, the Bills defense, did the job, because they were a defense that was very susceptible to the run. And I thought this was a game that the Chiefs would have been able to lean on that run game a little more heavily, but that did not happen. And ultimately, to me, this game just felt one-sided as I was watching it. I never really felt like the Chiefs threatened the Bills in this game at all. If you feel differently, at whatever points you thought or what you saw, let me know down in the comments what you thought about this game. The Bills moved to 6-2 here, still not at the top of their division. Remember, they lost to New England at home a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago now. So New England, as we'll look in the later slide here, we won't get into them at this particular moment. But the Chiefs dropped to 5-4, making this very difficult. At this moment, I don't see them being the 1 seed. And one of the things that has helped them in the playoffs the last several years is teams having to come to Arrowhead in January, in the cold, in that crazy stadium that has the way it's built, the sound is very loud. So one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL. So at this moment, it does not look like the AFC title will run through uh, Arrowhead Stadium, but we'll see. We'll see what the Chiefs do moving forward. They have some tough games coming up. I know they have the Colts on the schedule. That game is at home for the Chiefs. So um, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Speaking of the Colts, uh, as they have been my top team in the power rankings the last couple of weeks. So I will highlight them here. They went to Pittsburgh yesterday and they did not look good. Uh, Danny Dimes, his worst game by far of the year. 6 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 3 fumbles. Um, it just did not look good. They did end up rallying late. I think 10 unanswered in the fourth quarter, but ultimately they needed an onside kick late to potentially get the ball back to try to tie it up. But you're not going to win a game having 6 turnovers. And with that being said, with them being able to be in the game late, that kind of speaks to what the Steelers, kind of are too. Offensively, not a lot going on there. Yes, I understand they have Aaron Rodgers, but nothing really stood out offensively. He was very efficient, you know, but nothing really jumped out in terms of like, this is an offense that scares me. If as they are coming to Chicago in a couple of weeks, I think just before Thanksgiving, but we have a few weeks before we get into that game. But T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith were key playmakers, as you expect, especially T.J. Watt having a crucial sack fumble in the second quarter there that helped change the tune of that game. But despite the loss, you still had these Colts receivers, Michael Pittman, Alex Pierce, recording big time numbers. So this is an offense I expect to get back on track. I think this is a game the Steelers felt they really needed. Had they lost this game, Baltimore is lurking. They need to keep winning games because Baltimore, in my opinion, is looking to go on a bit of a run here and try to get back to a point where they can compete for this division. They have not played the Steelers yet, so that they can make up 2 games if they can beat them head up. So this will be an interesting division to keep an eye on going down the stretch. Cincinnati, obviously, we just covered them, 3-6, and the Cleveland Browns, they ain't doing nothing. Not really 2 teams you would think that compete. So this is basically a 2-team race with the Steelers and the Ravens getting healthier. So we'll see how that ends up looking down the line. Next, I wanted to look at it like a snapshot. So I told you earlier, we're not doing the power rankings this particular week, but we will look at the conferences in terms of a snapshot. Now, I put 8 teams on both sides. These are the top 8 teams, if the playoffs had started today, that would be in. So we'll just kind of highlight the AFC side first. And these teams are in no particular order. I'm not saying Indianapolis would be the 1 seed. I didn't really get that detailed in terms of, the seeding. I just put it by record from top to bottom. So Indianapolis Colts at 7-2. Obviously, we just talked about them losing to Pittsburgh, who was down a few spots from them. They are leading their division, the AFC South. New England Patriots are leading their division, the AFC East at 7-2. They're on a pretty good, sizable win streak here, maybe 4 or 5 games at this point. Denver Broncos rolling in the AFC West at 7-2. Both losses being to, I'm pretty sure, divisional opponents. I know one for sure was the Chargers. I can't remember the other loss, but I feel like they might have lost to the Chiefs already. But I could be wrong on that one. Buffalo Bills at 6-2, kind of bouncing back the last couple of weeks against Carolina and now yesterday against the Chiefs. Chargers at 6-3, winning at Tennessee yesterday. The Steelers at 5-3 at the top of the AFC North. So, and you don't see Baltimore pictured here because they got some games to win before they would be back in a graphic like this. Jacksonville at 5-3. They bounced back a little bit after a overtime win in Las Vegas yesterday. And the Kansas City Chiefs down at the bottom, which would be the 8th seed. If the playoffs started today, the Kansas City Chiefs would be the 8th seed. And that's crazy because the last couple of weeks, the Chiefs have been rolling. But that just shows, remember, they had that rough start to the season where they had a lot of guys hurt. Rasheed Rice was suspended. So, yes, they have been winning the last couple of weeks. Got on a little bit of a roll, hit a speed bump here. So let's see how this team responds moving forward. Obviously, they're a championship caliber team, um, and I expect them to be in the playoffs. But they have lost, to some of these teams in the division, especially the Chargers have a good divisional record, if nothing else. At 6-3, they're sitting pretty good. So they still have opportunity to win the AFC West, but we'll see. We'll see how those games go. If they can beat Denver again, they'll be in the driver's seat because that will put Denver at 3 losses, with 2 of the losses being to the Chargers. Moving over to the NFC side, again in no particular order. Um, the Rams at 6-2, the Eagles at 6-2, Tampa Bay at 6-2, and Seattle at 6-2. So the Rams and the Seahawks both in the NFC West sit atop that division. Those two teams, I'm pretty sure they haven't played yet. So I'm pretty sure they'll be playing here in the next couple of weeks as they are divisional opponents that play twice a year. Philly is, they got a strong hold on the NFC East at the moment. Let's see what the Cowboys do tonight. Again, I'm recording this early on Monday, so the Cowboys game has not happened yet. Um, but I expect the Cowboys to be able to win this game. Um, and the Cowboys will need some help from some of these other NFC teams to kind of get some losses on the Eagles to kind of get back in that divisional race. Pretty much the Eagles right now kind of have a bit of a stronghold on that division. Same with Tampa Bay at 6-2. Atlanta's dropped a couple of games here, and they have a tough one. I believe it's in London, but it's an overseas game regardless of what it is. Atlanta plays the Colts next week, next Sunday morning, one of those 8:30 kickoff games, in a game where both teams lost last week. So both teams will be looking to bounce back. So that'll be an interesting game, as this is probably a must-win for Atlanta if they want to, even a shot at, getting one of those. Well, they probably won't have a shot at the wild card as it stands right now. They would probably have to win that division, and the way Tampa Bay's playing, already have beaten Atlanta. Um, that's going to be tough to do. Moving down to the Green Bay Packers at 5-2-1. I didn't watch the game because the Bears were on yesterday. I just kind of looked at some stats on the game and, kind of heard some commentary about it. So I'm not going to speak too in detail about it, but it looked like they were able to get some pressure on Jordan Love. Wasn't able to run the ball effectively, which is, something Green Bay from the offensive side of the ball needs to do. When they are, clicking on all cylinders and being successful. Tucker Kraft did go down with a knee injury. I was seeing some people speculate that it was a torn ACL. If that is, that's a monster loss, as this is probably, in my opinion, their best playmaker offensively, as, the versatility he has. And that's what I mean by best player offensively. I know they have Golden. I know they have some of these other speed guys. Dobbs is a solid player. Christian Watson is a burner down the field, but just a complete package that Tucker Kraft offers you the toughness, the physicality, um, the smarts kind of in space and zones where to go with things. That's going to be a big loss for those guys. So keep an eye out for that injury, especially if you have him in like fantasy or something. But from what it sounds like, it doesn't sound like it's going to be something where he'll be back playing next week. San Francisco at 6-3, still finding ways to win games, even though they're very banged up. So competing in that NFC West with the Seahawks and the Rams. Detroit and the Bears both at 5-3. Detroit obviously splattered the Bears in week 2. We're a long ways from that game now, looking back at it. But both NFC North opponents, so tied for second there, with Detroit having the leg up with the tiebreaker as it stands currently because they have the one head-to-head win so far. Those two teams won't meet again until week 18 of the regular season. So just kind of looking at this snapshot, let me know what you guys think. Are any of these your teams? How you feeling about your teams? I feel pretty good about mine, and we'll wrap with this. Chicago Bears are a team that, no, I do not expect to be a team that wins the Super Bowl this year. But once you get in the tournament, you never know what happens. Now, I do think this is a team that can get in the tournament, the playoffs is what I mean by the postseason tournament. And once you get in, you take it game by game, and you see what happens, right? As long as whatever team it is, as long as you continue to develop the rest of the year, you get your young players involved. If you draft well, you're good up front. You have good coaching. Anything can happen in these playoffs. We've seen it in years past. If you remember back in the Brady kind of Patriot days, those New York Giant teams that were barely slipping in the playoffs late, and they went on runs, and they ultimately won the Super Bowl. Now that's a harder thing to do is to slip in kind of as a wild card because you have more games to play, and you're constantly on the road. But we've seen it in the past. It's something that's happened, and it's something that can happen at any point in time. If you look at this league, there's a ton of parity in it, and what I mean by that is just the worst to the best team is not as far away as people think. A couple of pieces here, a couple of play calls, a couple of the way the ball bounces, and games look completely different, right? So, with all that being said, thank you guys for all the love and support for the channel. This is something I'm going to do regardless if it's growing or not, just because I enjoy doing it. And it's something I like doing. And it's a part of me. So we'll see you in the next one. I'm not sure exactly what we'll have, but we'll probably have something on Thursday, even if it's shorts or something along those lines. But until next time, like, comment, subscribe. The Everyday Fans Podcast. Thank you guys. We're growing. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.